Okay, so one of the projects I want to talk about is a business called Elliptic. Now, Elliptic provide blockchain data for financial crime investigations. They are one of a handful of kind of leading companies that do this kind of work. So they're very specialist in their field, with only real one sort of major sort of competitor to them. The project that I was brought in to work on was for one of their tools called Forensics. They have several other tools that users use to track transactions across blockchains, but a specific tool was for visually mapping out those transactions so that forensic crime investigators could actually sort of demonstrate visually in court or to sort of compliance managers the flow of transactions. So it was a very visual, very sort of graph and graphical based UX project, which is quite different from a lot of the complex technical projects that I work on that are very sort of data heavy, that use sort of data tables. This was more like a drawing tool that you might kind of see something like Miro. One of the biggest challenges that Elliptic had when they brought me into the project was that the back-end architecture was going through a huge renovation, and it was being moved from a traditional system into a brand new kind of data structure. And that brought several challenges from a UX perspective, because I had to kind of really understand that. As an example, if you do kind of a standard sort of Web 2 project and you're asked to provide some tools for sorting some data in a table, you would just kind of add as many filters as you wanted to in a sidebar, for example, to allow users to kind of filter out and see exactly what they want to see. When it comes to blockchain data, it really is big data, and it's not always possible to combine 2 or 3 filters to do a data set. Because that data is live transactional data, it's being streamed into the app, and there's actually so much of this blockchain data that there aren't systems that can actually process those filters in real time. Part of the role at Elliptic meant that we had to do some sort of deep discovery research. A lot of the users that use Elliptic tools were traditionally investigating financial crime on the Bitcoin blockchain. But we knew that they were asking to have the ability to investigate across other blockchains, bigger blockchains, Ethereum ecosystem, for example. The other challenge with the forensics tool was that the UI, the front end, as in how it looks, was still the original sort of version, and that needed sort of completely redesigning and reimagining. So what were the challenges? Well, one of the biggest challenges was just lots of technical jargon, lots of kind of crypto terms that most people wouldn't be familiar with. Even the users, when we researched with them, were sort of not familiar with a lot of the terms that were being used. The other challenge is that when speaking to users and asking them about different tools that they might have used, and trying to sort of understand how they might want to use those tools in the future, they very much sort of wanted Elliptic to sort of show them the tool, because they couldn't visualize what that tool would look like. And so we had to really sort of try and get away from the UI and ask them about their problem statements, ask them about the use cases or the financial crime cases that they wanted to work on that they couldn't, and really unpack those pain points in order to understand what that solution might look like. Another challenge is with a tool that's so complicated is how do you create a tool that is both extremely feature rich, but it's actually very intuitive to use and remaining and keeping it looking simple, so new onboarders can use it. And so some of the skills that I put to use on this project, being able to do discovery research, being able to sort of unpack the research objectives and go out to the business in order for us to kind of get in front of those users. There's always a challenge in businesses. Luckily, there was a great team around us that supported that, and we were able to get in front of many users and do many hours worth of discovery research to find out exactly how this tool needed to adapt and flex for their future needs. Another kind of, I guess, soft skill was the ability to sort of go out and network internally with other people in the business to help them to understand what our kind of UX research and design goals were, and to sort of bring them on the journey with us on that. We're moving from, Elliptic being a startup that got very, very quickly into the market and grew massively, to then go around and turn that around and start bringing more design thinking into the business. And so to go out and use diplomacy and hand holding and demonstrating the approach was definitely something that was used when I was working at Elliptic. Other skills that I used at Elliptic is, a lot of sort of quite sort of fiddly, dense UI component creation. And there wasn't really the opportunity to go out and just do Google searches or look at other pattern libraries online, because these tools that we were designing just actually didn't exist. We were creating brand new stuff. And so my skill, my ability to sort of conceptualize and think of new ideas and put them on the boards and sketch was absolutely applied at Elliptic, and a very fun thing to do to create brand new assets. We actually run a series of workshops where we get all the team that kind of touch this product, internal investigators, development teams and designers, bringing them up to the whiteboard, doing whole day workshops, and just having some fun and getting those ideas out. A lot of amazing minds at Elliptic and worked some really great people, and they had brilliant ideas as well. So as a UX designer, it's not just your ideas. Don't be selfish, share the project, and you'll find that a lot of people really want to contribute to that journey with you. And we ended up getting 10 amazing new concepts. We refined them down and we brought them into our user research sessions and got feedback on them before even going into sort of formal design phases. The kind of tools that I used, so we set up a brand new kind of research repository at Elliptic, which they hadn't seen before. We were doing that using a tool called Notion. Notion is a brilliant way to structure data. Traditional user research usually kind of ends up being on sticky notes and going into PowerPoint decks. That's not the way that I like to do it. So I like to collect all that data and refine it down into a structured data format, so it can be searched, it can be filtered, and it can build on previous research studies. So we're not kind of wasting a resource. We can always look back and see the insights that we collected. And so Notion was a great tool for that. Another great tool, most UX designers are going to use this tool, which is Figma, a brilliant way to share concepts, build out prototypes, take them into user research, but also just have fun and play with new interaction sort of designs that are not familiar. You can use Figma to link up your screens and create something that the developers might end up building. Now this is important because we don't want to waste developer resource coding out loads of things that actually, when you get to test, they're not performing well. So Figma's a great tool for that. We also started collecting components and creating a design system in Elliptic that would allow a sort of cohesive set of tools and components that we could use and update quite easily. So what were some of the outcomes? Well, for all the sort of team that worked on the project, I think we're all extremely happy with the outcome. We actually got the new version of Forensics, I think it's now called Investigator, and created a beta rollout. This is really a really good sort of agile way and method to get something new out to market whilst removing risk. So there was a beta phase that went out. The users, as soon as they saw it, they were kind of absolutely thrilled with it. And they were already trying to sort of place orders on this beta product before we'd kind of even got it to market. So great feedback. And as the rollout continues, it just means that more and more investigators are allowed to track more crime across more blockchains. And that is just a great benefit to everybody. And unpacking all the complexities and understanding the jargon is the stuff that we do under the radar. The user experience, that's a simple and easy to use tool that can help them to do their job more efficiently and to actually do their job in ways that they hadn't been able to do before, is something that every sort of UX designer strives for. So fantastic project, kudos to Elliptic. They're a brilliant organisation. If you ever get a chance to work with them, do it. There are some brilliant minds there, and well done, Elliptic.